Good morning, it's Stephanie Gunning, and I'm so excited to be here today talking with everybody and with my guest, Lorianne King, the author of the #1 new release in menopause books on Amazon, Come Back Strong, Balanced Wellness After Surgical Menopause. This book released a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really, really proud of it, and I'm proud to be the editor for Lori and to be her first official interview. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Stephanie. It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for.
Look, it's the same person. Actually, I don't know which side of the screen people see you on. When I do that, you could be the other side of me on their computer. That's funny. So let's just lay a little groundwork.
Sure.
How many women go through surgical menopause as opposed to natural menopause?
That's a great question, Stephanie. And one of the recent numbers I saw was that over 600,000 women in the U.S. alone have a hysterectomy every year. And as you know, and what we talked about a little bit in the book was just because you have a hysterectomy doesn't always mean that you hit sudden surgical menopause. A lot of it depends on whether they take your ovaries or not, as well as the age that you have the hysterectomy and the oophorectomy, which is the removal of ovaries. But then that also doesn't necessarily take into consideration surgical menopause that's brought on from disease or illness or medication or chemotherapy or radiation and of that sort.
That's right. There are many women who have, like I've heard that tamoxifen, which is a drug often given to breast cancer survivors, can thrust a woman into chemical menopause. I suppose that woman would actually get some benefits out of your book as well as the one from sudden surgical menopause.
Absolutely, absolutely. My situation was from surgery, and that was from my perspective. But menopause, across the board, the difference with sudden, whether it comes by surgery or medication or whatnot, is the intensity and the time frame that we go through it. But all women eventually go through menopause. And, I've talked to all ranges of women, from the woman who doesn't have any symptoms, whether it's natural or surgical, but also the woman that, just gets bombarded and flooded all at once with so many symptoms of itchiness and emotional roller coaster and weight gain and the hot flashes and the night sweats. And it's just such a wild, roller coaster. But again, every woman is different. But it's certainly,
if you live long enough, you will experience menopause. I mean, it's the intensity, the sudden intensity. Isn't that the real issue that we're talking about?
Correct. But I've gotten reviews of women that have read it that haven't gone through sudden surgical menopause that did get some real great benefits and tools to be able to use to help through natural menopause, and one cancer survivor that also found it very beneficial with the tools and the wellness tips provided. So
I love the holistic approach you take in this book. I love the fact that you set it up with how to prepare for surgery. I'm not sure that everybody has a full understanding of what they're going to experience on the other side of their surgery, because I think this is just my understanding. My guess is that women are battling with an issue that's a problem, endometriosis or whatever, and then maybe a tumor, maybe fibroids, right? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. And so you're more concerned with getting rid of that problem than how you're going to recover from your surgery. And so even though they might alert you that this could happen, you probably don't know internally what that's going to be like. Is that accurate?
Very accurate assessment. And in my situation going in, the best case scenario was that I was going to have an ovary removed, in and out, procedure, a couple of weeks recovery, no problem. And sometimes, like in a case like mine with endometriosis, they can't really diagnose that or know the depth of it until they're already in the middle of surgery and making decisions, kind of as you go. So, in my case, I thought, okay, best case, worst case scenario, but you're always hoping for the best case scenario, and you're not really looking beyond, well, what are the repercussions of this? And when I heard hysterectomy, I certainly didn't think of surgical menopause or menopause at all. I was 43 at the time of the surgery, and it just wasn't in the forefront of my brain. So it definitely that was part of in writing the book and being able to prepare women to say, these are some of the questions to ask, these are the things to consider, these are the support things to have in place ahead of time, to just really prepare to help you go through the process with as much ease as you possibly could.
Now you're an athlete, right? You're a cyclist.
I am.
So you were in top physical condition. Is it important for a woman, if she has the time, to prepare in that way by getting her body in good shape?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And yes, I was in really great shape. I had a really great diet going in, and that will always help. Anytime you have surgery or anesthesia, or you have some type of recovery, the more prepared the body is ahead of time, the more you're going to help yourself in the long run. So definitely, any type of anti-inflammatory diet, that's a lot of your plant-based type foods. And anytime you can have the exercise ahead of time, and that's always a combination of strength training and cardiovascular and flexibility. That's a lifestyle that I promote. Movement just really helps the body to heal and to prepare. So absolutely, if you have the time ahead of time, to get in as good a health as you can, that's, and again, it's tough because the woman is already dealing with a lot of different issues that may be inhibiting in that factor. So it's always the best that you can do, given the circumstances that you're in.
You know what? I just realized I didn't actually read your bio at the beginning of this, and I would like to go back and do that now because I'm so impressed. First of all, I'm very impressed that your book is the #1 new release in the category of menopause. That is very exciting, and I congratulate you because you chose to put this book out yourself because you wanted to get it on the market quickly, and you are enjoying, announcing it and all of that. And I know that that it's really going to be something that you are talking about and doing events regionally in January, February, and beyond. So this is a foretaste. This is being recorded at the end of December and posted on my blog, stephaniegunning.com. And so Lorianne King is a best-selling author, yay, woo, a speaker, a blogger. What is your blog address?
My website is loriannking.com, and then the blog button is up in the top.
Fantastic. So they can get there from your website. You're also a certified sports nutritionist, so you know a lot about nutrition, and you are a wellness coach with over 8 years of experience in health and wellness. You're a cyclist, a bodybuilder, and you were a runner for over 25 years, competing in races ranging in length from 2 miles, 26.2 miles, marathoning. How many marathons did you do?
I did one.
I did one. Not in the same shape. I was in. She has an undergraduate degree in recreation from Western State College of Colorado and an advanced certificate in information management from Syracuse University. She currently resides in the Hudson Valley of New York City with her husband, Jim, who is also a bodybuilder and a health coach. He is in phenomenal shape. The two of you are a picture of people in great shape. It's quite impressive. One of the things that I love about your book also is that you share your story. It's not a memoir, but you're revealing and honest about what you yourself went through leading up to your surgery to relieve your endometriosis, which led to the hysterectomy and nephrectomy. And in parts of it, we kind of get to go through the same decision-making process with you that every woman has to go through for herself. For instance, should I take hormones or not, and what kind of hormones? That's a big issue. Could you talk a little bit about how you experimented with that and what leads you to advocate for women?
Sure. When it comes to hormones, there's the biggest decision-making, or the first decision is, do you want to go with synthetic hormones or bioidentical hormones? And synthetic, are very common. You've heard of things like Premarin and different hormone therapies that women have been on for years. Something as simple as birth control pills are a form of synthetic hormones. For me, I had studied, under the work of, Christiana Northrope and Susan Summers, and had learned about bioidentical hormones and knew that that was a better option for me, just my holistic outlook. I don't like a lot of pain medications or medications in general, so I want to be as natural and as pure as possible. So bioidenticals are a plant-based that really are identical to what a woman's hormones are naturally. So
they're made from yam, aren't they?
correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
great. Yeah.
Yep. So when I first came out of surgery in the hysterectomy and had one of my follow-ups, it was within the first week, and so we got started right away with a form of estradiol and progesterone, which were bioidentical hormones. And over the course of, I believe it was the first year and a half, we just chased my symptoms and all my complaints and everything that was going on and the emotions, and we kept raising the hormones to try to find that balance that made me feel good. And at one point, I just got so frustrated. I was like, well, I'm still gaining weight, and again, as a wellness coach, and I help a lot of women and people in general lose weight. It was frustrating to have my body not respond to the things that had always worked in the past. So, as the weight continued to go up, I figured, well, I got nothing to lose. I may as well try going off and seeing what my body does naturally. And for me, the night sweats came back and the hot flashes came back, and, some of the other unfortunate symptoms, which for me was vaginal dryness and atrophy. And that was kind of the deal breaker that sent me kind of running back to the bioidenticals and looking at it from, well, let's start with the lowest dose possible and see how my body responds, but also let me look at all these other areas in my life and nutrition and diet and mindset and emotions and meditation and things like that, so that I'm not as dependent on any type of medication, even if it is a natural based one that I believe in, that I can be on it for a shorter term or a lesser dose.
You're saying something very to my heart, because I believe that a lot of people in America in particular, where we have this massive pharmaceutical industry, would rather take a pill than they would work on themselves.
Right.
And, I've been working in the literature of self-help for a really long time. And it was really when I myself committed, to meditating and breathing and walking and all of that. And, being aware of my mindset that, that I felt like I was able to self-regulate. So how important is it to women going through a sudden surgical menopause, this kind of intense, shocking onset of symptoms that's, when your hormones go out of whack, your mind goes out of whack too, right? So how much is that kind of mental training, if you will, like what can you do if you didn't do that before?
It's a great question. Meditation wasn't part of my life before menopause. And, again, when a woman is thrust into the extreme, you do whatever it takes. And sometimes, I've talked to a lot of women that it was anti-anxiety medications and antidepressant medications and sleep. For me, insomnia was a huge, huge issue in the months that followed my surgery. And part of it was I couldn't fall asleep, but also it was I couldn't stay asleep. And so I was exhausted all the time. And, Ambien was one of those, tools that I used when I was in the intensity of the worst part of surgical menopause. But at the same time, I was also exploring these other avenues, and meditation was a huge one to be able to, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes, I started just being able to just sit and be still. And it's so funny because like you get, you're sitting there and the whole goal is just to keep your body physically still, and that in tune keeps the mind calm and brings calmness to your whole body. So, everybody goes through different things when they meditate, and whether it's an itch or a hot flash, I would start out in the morning and I would bundle up and I'd have all these blankets on, and then this hot flash would come and it'd be like, you go through this little thing in your mind, like, okay, are you going to just sit in this and experience it and be aware of it? Or are you going to freak out and kick the blankets off and kind of go a little bit nuts? And
I bet you tried it both ways.
I did. I definitely, I don't know if try is the right word, but experimented or experienced both. And I did eventually learn to just sit in it and just say, okay, I'm not going to die. I'm okay. This is, it is what it is, and I'm going to get through this, and it would pass, and you could just watch it. And so being able to practice that on a daily basis so that when different things hit, the emotions or the hot flashes or things like that during the course of a day, all of a sudden it was like, okay, we've done this before. I know what to do. I can just watch this and observe this and just kind of let it pass, because knowing that it will pass. So meditation was a huge part that I had to learn after, surgery and throughout sudden, surgical menopause. And that has been a big aspect of my healing and balance overall is meditation.
Every woman, when she goes through menopause, it's kind of a crapshoot. You go, how was it for my mother? How was it for my sister? You don't really know how it's going to be for you. But what happens, I think, to most people is that, and I say this as a woman who's just come through menopause naturally, that you start to learn, if I eat that, then tomorrow I'm going to feel like more hot flashes, or caffeine. So you're also a bestseller in the caffeine category. Who knew that was a category? I
Right.
say as I sip my coffee.
Right.
So if you're having insomnia, can you still have caffeine?
No, it's ironic, and caffeine is one of those big ones in coffee. Like, so many of us, we've given it up, whether we've given up sugar or alcohol or, different vices throughout life, drugs or alcohol, caffeine, it's like we hold on to it because it's like, it's the only vice I have left, you can't take it away. And we really love our coffee, and, and I get that because it's a major comfort for me. I love a good cup of coffee, and it's not even for me, it's not even the cream and the sugar and the things you add in, because I drink it black. So it's really just a love of coffee. But when I had insomnia, it was like, okay, well, what are all the tools that I can do? Because it's like, one night is bad enough, but when you've gone through it night after night and week after week and month after month, and you're not sleeping, it means your body's not healing, your mind's not refreshing. There's so many really great things that happen when we sleep. So caffeine was one of those that I had to look at, and I had to be willing to, it's like you said, Stephanie, about, we want the pill that's just going to fix it. And there's the Ambien and the other things, but all of a sudden we're on this roller coaster where we're taking something to put us to sleep, and then we're drinking coffee to wake us up. And it's just this vicious cycle. So coffee and caffeine in general was something that in the beginning I gave up after 12 o'clock. And then it was like, well, maybe, I still wasn't sleeping. So, okay, let's try and give it up after 10 a.m. And okay, let's go down to 1 cup of coffee, and just hanging on for dear life. And, yeah, don't take it away. And finally I did, I gave up coffee, and it wasn't just a matter of giving it up for a day or two. It was, typically they say with caffeine, you have to give it up for at least 3 weeks to really feel the energy come back, and to, because your body is going to detox depending on how long you've been drinking coffee. Caffeine, in general, just can wreak havoc on all of that. So I was willing to give it up completely. I have added it back in, but my husband and I especially monitor it very closely. Like, okay, what time is it? You're still drinking coffee. You need to stop, and also just being aware of my sleep habits. If my sleep ever gets interrupted again, and I ever go back to those insomnia or not being able to fall asleep or stay asleep, coffee would be something I would give up again.
So this thing that's occurring to me listening to you, which is so amazing, is, I said Americans like to take a pill. I believe that when a woman learns how to self-regulate her condition, her whole condition, emotions, mind, body, the power that gives her, it is such a boost to her confidence. Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. I just we're coming through December and the holidays, and got to spend time with family. And, my mom is someone that I don't see every day. And she remarked how confident and happy I seem at this point. And that's, when your mom says that about you, that's like one of the biggest compliments, because she, moms and daughters, like they're,
oh, she knows you well. She studied you your whole life. Watched you. Yeah.
Right. So to have her say, to know how happy I am and confident that I seem now, it really is. And I think that was the biggest thing of writing the book and coming through it and looking at a holistic approach, was really being able to empower myself and know that, yes, I have the support network of doctors and holistic, practitioners, whether it was acupuncture or chiropractor or Reiki practitioners and things like that. But it was also taking control of being able to, well, what can I do to empower myself and to just really take control and be a part and a participant of my own healthcare and wellness.
Yeah, you're definitely not a victim of this experience in any way, shape, or form. Towards the end of your book, you talk about self-love and also about the sense of finding a purpose. And to me, this is one of the bigger things that women go through in midlife. I really think that our brains change at midlife, and it's almost reflected in the way society is right now, with all the women standing up and finally speaking the truth of how they've felt, mistreated and so forth, and just saying, I'm not taking it anymore. I know so many women, when they get to late 40s, early 50s, they're just like, hey, life is, there's not that much time left, or maybe there's only another 40 years, but it's going faster and faster, and I got things to get done. I don't have time for this, chicken shit, stuff.
Absolutely. And when we throw out the filter and the barriers and we say, enough is enough, life is short. And, I've been taking care of everybody else all my life. And I think that's true for so many women, because the biggest concern sometimes if they have children is, how are my children going to be impacted as I go through this? And there's so many other people they're trying to take care of. And we, the last person we ever love and forgive is ourselves. And that's a big part of any healing, is just being able to take that time to nurture yourself with self-love and just, okay, what does Lori want? What does Stephanie want? What asking yourself, like, what does she need? When we lash out, when we're emotional, getting to the root of that. Do I really just need a hug? Do I just really need a nap? Do I need a day at the beach or a lunch with a girlfriend or different things like that so often we stop taking time to do? And one of the things that I talk about in the book too is like this loss of passion and loss of, and in the beginning, and when you're going through surgical menopause or any type of menopause, you look at it from a libido standpoint and all of a sudden, like, I'm not passionate. And, that's very common and very understandable when you feel like crap. Like, the last thing you want to do is have some type of intimacy with someone. And for me, it was waking up and realizing, well, is it that I've lost passion in my marriage or in my sexuality, or is it really that I've just lost passion in my life? Or maybe I'm just, like you said, Stephanie, re-examining it at this point in time where, life is short and I just went through this traumatic experience and I'm done settling for anything less than my best or anything less than I want. And so we start to pursue that with more passion and purpose. And all of a sudden, when we're discovering that and we realize there's a book in us that is going to be published or we're going to publish, all of a sudden it's like, that's huge, right? That's huge to be able to have that confidence. Say, yeah. I'm serving the world. This is a book that so many women need to read, and their partners. I've had men read it and they were like, wow, I had no idea. And I've had women that read it and they were like, I had no idea that women go through this. And to be able to give a voice to it and allow more women to come forward, it's and Me Too covers so many different aspects, right? The whole movement right now with what you were leading to with politics and women coming forward and saying, hey, me too. And there's such strength in that. And whether it's surgical menopause or another topic, then, when someone looks at you and they see you and they say, me too, all of a sudden you're not alone. And that's a power.
Right. You belong. And this is a
crazy
issue. So, is there a sense of betrayal by the body? I mean, so the couple of things that occur to me are, initially, you're actually in recovery from surgery. How long does it take for this kind of surgery to, for the body to recuperate from that? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 3 months, 6 months? What is that?
It's a little blurred, because I think you're going through so much of the emotional stuff too. But when I first came out of surgery, and I asked, there was a doctor that came in to release me that wasn't my own doctor. And, and I said, well, what can I expect? And he says, well, you should probably try to be out of work at least 2 weeks, and I was like, wow, 2 weeks, that sounds so long, like, you mean I can't work out? And I mean, I just had major surgery, right?
Right.
And then I was very fortunate that a good friend of mine works in human resources at her company. And she says, you know what? She says, legally, a hysterectomy is a major surgery. And you, by law, and it may be different by state, but are eligible for 6 weeks. And so, what that told me is that, again, this is a major surgery. And if it takes 6 weeks, then every woman should have that opportunity to have that, to kind of figure things out. Because again, as you said, you're recovering from surgery, you're recovering from anesthesia, you're recovering just physically. But then as if your ovaries are removed and your hormones suddenly tank, there's a lot you're trying to get used to and adjust to. So I would say, take the minimum of the 6 weeks if you can. You're never going to have another opportunity. Like, you can't go back to work and then a month later say, oh, can I go out again?
I changed my mind.
I'm not ready. Take as much as you can, whether you have to take a loan, it may be a smaller paycheck, and every woman's situation is different, but look at all opportunities. If there's different support you can get, whether it's to get a loan or, whatever you need to do. It's just so important to take care of yourself and really do whatever it takes to get back.
You also talk about support systems in your book, and how some of your friends came over, and I think I remember you were doing puzzles together or something. Right. Remind me what it was.
Right. Well, it's funny. Like, I'm sometimes can be a type A personality. I'm a strong athlete, and like, I'm always on the go. And so that, like I said, meditation was new to me. And so there's a lot of different forms of meditation. I've learned to meditate in the garden. I've learned to meditate going for a walk. But two really good friends, one brought me, Lori brought me a couple puzzles. So it was like, just to be able to like turn technology off, turn the TV off, not worry about anything, and just use a different part of your brain to put puzzles together. And then my friend Susan brought me coloring books, and it was an adult coloring book of flowers and stuff like that, and this huge pack of colored pencils. But I was amazed that, as I opened my brain open my heart to that type of just being quiet in a different form of meditation, it was just, time would just get lost. Like, I could spend hours coloring, and I still dig it out from time to time when I'm like, you know what, I need a break. I just need to go color.
I love those books, actually. I remember doing them as a kid and having these like kind of wild psychedelic drawings at the end that I would hang on the wall,
Different moods. Like, sometimes you don't have to stay within the lines. You can scribble all over, but that's not just a meditative thing, but it like anxiety or depression or any type of negative emotions, it can really engage that creative side of your brain and really help in a lot of different areas.
It's emotional. Well, if there were just like a couple of tips that you want to make sure that people know before we conclude, what would those be? Oh, by the way, before you answer that question, I just want to show people this really cool bicycle drawing. This is unique to Lori. She created it, and it is the wellness wheel. And I'm sure that this is part of your coaching system, and it probably answers this whole question. One wheel says prayer and meditation, nature, exercise, purpose, relationships, faith, spirituality. The other is self-care, self-love, play, finances, nutrition, rest, career, passion. And that's the basis of everything that you've put in this book, isn't it?
It is. It really is. The Wheels to Wellness was something that, originally, like even before surgery, that I was looking at as a cyclist and a bicyclist, and studying the actual wheel of a bike and understanding that every spoke matters, right? Like, if you break a spoke, it causes the wheel to wobble, and it can really throw the whole bike off balance. So even though like one spoke in itself doesn't support all of you, when they all work together, they're really supporting the cyclist on her bike or his bike. So it was a way to really look at wellness as a whole and realize that the importance of so many different aspects in our life that you just read off. Nutrition is important, exercise important, prayer and meditation, whatever your spiritual life is, feeling connected, your career, your professional life, and so at any given time, whether you're in menopause or surgical menopause, or you're just living your life, you can look at, the spokes on your wheel and whatever the important one are for you, and say, how good of condition are each one of them in? And like right now, my exercise and nutrition is spot on, but maybe my meditation has fallen off, or maybe, my professional life isn't quite where it is. And so you can kind of focus more of your attention on that spoke to get everything back in balance and moving forward again. And next month or next season or next year, it might be something different. But when you re-examine those spokes seasonally, quarterly, monthly, it just keeps you moving forward and balanced wellness.
I think that's actually the big takeaway, right?
It really is the balanced wellness. Overall, surgical menopause was, what really caused me to address so many of it. But it's anything. It's any, and Come Back Strong. It was all about, nobody gets away without having, it rains on everybody's head at some point in their life, and setbacks. When I talk about setbacks, it was surgical menopause, and a lot of people think of that as a negative. There were a lot of positives that came out of it too. But, a setback can be a divorce. It can be a move across country. It can be a marriage. It can be, a goal that you set for yourself to run a marathon. By setback, it's not necessarily a negative. It could be just something that disrupts you or sets you back from accomplishing something else in your life. So setbacks to me are just always going to be a setup for a comeback, so.
That's your title. I love it.
Yeah. It's all about the perspective, and Come Back Strong was definitely in balanced wellness. It was what I wanted to be and do. So
actually, I should hold it like that. I was
right.
That's not reading correctly.
We have to give a shout out to Gus Yu,
who did the cover.
My husband took the beautiful photo, and but Gus really pulled it together with a remarkable cover, and I'm really grateful for that.
I love this book. All right, great. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time. I want to thank you so much. This is Lori-Ann King, and her website is loriannking.com, and Lori is Lori. And the book is Come Back Strong, Balanced Wellness After Surgical Menopause. And you're going to be at bookstores and Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kindle, ebooks, and whatever. So
traveling live across the web, but also hopefully in cities across the country as well. So
right, and you do speak, and you're in the Hudson Valley of New York, and I know that you're going to be doing some events up there. So people can find out what those are by going to your website.
Yes.
Correct?
My website, you can connect with me on my website. Is on the different social media. You can connect me there on the social media of your choice,
and so subscribe to your e-zine and your blog.
Yes, my newsletter, that you'll get all the tools and tips. You'll get updates on new books coming out moving forward, and wellness tips and events and all sorts of different specials and things going on. And it'll always kind of center around balanced wellness and coming back strong.
Fantastic. Well, you've done a great thing for women who are going through this, who are looking for realistic, helpful tips. And thank you for taking the time to write the book, and for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, how do I do